Stars Reach came out with another big update called the University Update. I'm Controlled Chaos. In this video, we're going to be going over this update that takes us to school. Let's go ahead and get into it. First off, this is a huge update to the skill trees. And a lot of the stuff that they put in is a work in progress because there's a lot of data entry put in. Dave Jordan himself even stated it in the Discord that he is working frantically to get the information put in, but until the information is put in correctly for each skill, they're not going to be unlocking them. Hopefully, my hope is that they unlock them as the data is put in for each skill tree. So when he finishes the skill tree, they unlock it and allow us to play it, but you never know. They may unlock them all at once. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to go over each of the skill trees they're adding. There's a lot of new stuff into this. So the botany now includes herbalism, forestry, farming, and foraging. Combat now includes combat tactics trees, which will show how the trees will be progressing as they develop, including ranged, melee, drones, and combat engineering options. The ones that interest me here the most are the drones and the combat engineer. Really interest me. Cooking now has provisions and foods. This is for medicines and cures that have been moved to medical, or the medicines and cures have been moved to medical. Crafting contains tailoring, armor, merchant, weaponsmith, toolmaker, civilian engineering or civil engineering, and architect. The refining has been moved to the mineralogy tree. Easier for the mining people to sort of get into that because, well, that's what they're good at. Medical now includes pharmacology, which holds the medicine and cure recipes to unlock, the helix specialties, and genetics. Next, we have the Ranger tree, which has the Trailblazer utility, Survivalist, Surveying, Stealth, and Stealth attacks, which is really interesting. I'm going to focus on those also just for the fun of it because I like being a sneaky guy. And then it also has navigation and camping, vehicles, which will include room for ground, aerial vehicles, and spaceships. This is going to be really cool, especially when it gets into the PvP aspect. And the reason I say this is because Dave Jordanson is on the team. He was the lead developer behind PlanetSide, and that had the combined arms PvP that heavily focused on. So if anyone knows how to do this, it's Dave Jordanson because he really did a great job on that in PlanetSide. Next is xenology, which accesses genotypes, xenology, pets, animal training, husbandry, hunting, and fishing, which is really cool. What I really like about this is how they're branching out, but they've added in new skill trees, including business, which adds management, logistics, and advertising. So you're wanting to run a business, there you go. And the great thing is with them adding in advertising, they have Carneros there to really leech the information out of his brain and put it into the game, which is really great. We have humanity, which includes writing, journalism, music, dance, and acting. And people on the Discord were sort of making a joke that, oh great, we can put on stage shows of musicals. And Dave responded back, quit reading Raph Kosner's mind, which is amazing. I like that he's thinking forward, he's thinking creatively, because here's the thing, I can see players doing this. People said to him that, oh, no one's going to want to be a dancer in Star Wars Galaxies, and there are a bunch of dancers. I believe there will be a bunch of writers, a bunch of journalists, a bunch of musicians, dancers, and actors in this game. The reason why I know this is we already have people writing up stories about Stars Reach that aren't developers. They're creating their own stories. This gives them an avenue to put out those stories and for people in the game to read them. The journalism tree, Raph Costner has literally said he wants to make it so that content creators like myself can actually have an easier and cooler time and special way to record our videos and do stuff that's really cool. So if you're in some form wanting to do something creative in the arts, this is a great way to do it. There's also leadership, which includes inspiration, group tactics, and coordination, which is awesome there. But we also have new weapons. And weapons have changed. Let's go ahead and go over those. First off, the trusty Omni Blaster has been renamed to the Omni Shock. The reason being is there is a new weapon called the Omni Force, which we'll get to right now. The Omni Force uses kinetic damage, just like the Omni Shock, or what used to be called the Omni Blaster. The primary fire is slower than the Omni Shock, but does more of a powerful hit to it, which I've seen in effect. The specials for the Omni Force are as follows. Artillery. You basically hold E, and when you let go, it fires off an arc shot that does an AoE damage with significant knockback. Then you have the Hunter Seekers, which you hit Q to do this, and it fires out a shotgun blast of 3 shots, just like the triple shot did on the Omni Blaster, now called the Omni Shock. But this one's different because what it then does is those 3 shots split into 3 shots. Instead of going horizontally, they go vertically, so up and down, and then they turn into homing shots and go towards the nearest enemy, which is very fun. Then we have corrosive drones. This is another type of drone weapon, but can sort of like the companion orbs, except these do corrosive acid damage. So there's acid breath, which you hold down E, and it does a projectile arc in front of you, and does an AoE of detonations on impact that causes targets to be poisoned. Then there's Bug Bomb. It is a fan shot that goes out in front of you and detonates at a short range to saturate the area with corrosive damage, causing targets to be poisoned. Awesome there. Then we have the Freeze Ray. This one's really cool. Its primary fire is a cold base damage, much like the Gravity's primary beam. However, it does not knock back, so it does slightly more damage instead, and then has some special attacks. There's the Snow Globe, which I'm guessing is done with E. They don't state it in the patch notes, but they're going with the EQ thing, so I'm guessing they just forgot to put that in. And it shoots a projectile into the hemisphere, patterns all around you, and detonates a short range and potentially impacting a great number of targets that can freeze on impact of the target. Then there's Deep Freeze. This is a projectile that does light damage but causes everything, including the terrain, to freeze solid, and you do this by hitting Q. So I can see sort of like a Iceman or Frozone type thing where you hit the ground to be able to slide around and maneuver and stuff like that. So I can see more interesting combat with the Freeze Ray and using the Deep Freeze, which is awesome and cool. And if you're a bit evil, you might think of some of the evil characters like Dr. Freeze and stuff like that for doing that. And then you have to unlock these skills for the special combats on these. The soldier now comes with the Omni Force and not the Omni Shock. So it's a lot better actually fitting for the soldier, in my opinion, because of the artillery and the way it shoots. Now, there are some other changes to the other weapons. For instance, the Omni Shock, which was the Omni Blaster, triple shot, and Doom Blossom specials now do electrical effects when they impact on the target, and it adds a crowd control to their abilities, which is nice because Electric Serve does a stun effect, and the cool thing is Electrify can now knock flying targets to the ground. So if you're having trouble with those flying targets, such as the ball hogs or the sky sharks, things like that, you'll be able to bring them down to the ground with the Omni Shock abilities, which is great. The Companion Orb's ring nodes will now catch opponents on fire and do damage over time. I love that change. The Gravity Gun's knockback effect has been increased slightly. So it's just a slight bump in the knockback it does. Then there are mining improvements. When you normally mine through rock and soil, you just got that resource that would drop. Well, that is now changed. You will every so often start finding little bits of ores or minerals in there. So if you're digging through the dirt, you might come across some sand. You might come across other materials, like a little bit of chunk of granite or something like that, or rocks that you might find on the ground. Because if you look at dirt, yeah, there's the dirt, but you'll also find rocks in there, and you might find little bits of sand in there. Just like when you dig through a rock, you'll find every so often little bits of gems until you hit a big vein. Same with gold. Look at gold miners. They, in order to find the veins, before they hit the veins, they'll find little specks of gold in the area, and then they'll hit a big vein of gold and stuff like that. And this is a smart idea. I really like this idea. It makes it a lot more funner and interesting. And I actually saw this when I was on the stress test, or the sanity test, as they called it, for the update that happened on Thursday. And I was seeing this effect literally happen, where I was digging for some ruby, and as I was going through, I was getting a little bit of other gems digging through the stone to get to the ruby. There's a new kiosk on the space station on every planet at the portals. And what these kiosks are is they're the ecology kiosks. These ecology kiosks tell you the health of the planet or space you're in. And the reason these are here is this will tell you if there's like a shortage of a certain type of plant or a certain type of mineral, or a creature is now endangered to going extinct. And the reason they put this in is now there are servitor violations. And these servitor violations can happen when certain resources get low on planet or in space. And the servitors can do several different things, such as launch meteors out to you, maybe even send creatures to come after you, or send servitors or makers after you themselves, which is a very interesting idea and gives notice. So you'll have to be careful in taking care of things. I can really see Dunk especially liking this ecology thing, because it will allow them to keep track on the planets on what resources are running low, so that they can revitalize the planets, making their job a lot easier. So I bet you this is the number one thing Gunk likes, is the ecology kiosks. But then they've also changed up the first-time user experience. A large number of the ads were made off of first-time users' experience. I know Dread was giving a lot of that information to them, and I know a lot of you new players have been doing that. So even though you're new to the game, your feedback is very important to them. They want to know what is confusing to you, so that they can make a better experience for you and help you understand how this game is played and what it's all about. So during character creation, you will be given a choice of show me the way or I know what I'm doing, which basically makes it so that you either go through the tutorial by show me the way, or you can do I know what I'm doing, and it just automatically puts you out into the world, giving you the explorer profession. If you want another skill tree, such as soldiers, or you want the crafter, you do still need to go through the tutorial at this point in time. I think this is just the first step of this. The lava slash fire suppressor room has been removed to make it much easier to navigate, and this is a lot nicer. Instead of having to get through this whole entire piping system, it's now go around a wall and then up a ramp, which makes it a lot better. The debris area for the debris tool has been changed. You no longer have to crouch down there and get this little pile of rubble out of the way and crouch through. It's now a walkable area, but you now have a big pile of debris to move, of soil and stuff like that you have to get out of the way to get better use and understanding of how the terraformer works. This, I think, is another smart move. They revamped the explorer and the soldier because both professions were granting waypoint skills, and we didn't want to have a way for them to use in game currently or correctly. And the soldier now gets the artillery special unlock at the beginning. It also grants the Omniforce pistol, like I mentioned, instead of the companion orbs. The Explorer gets a longer lasting camp and the second stage of the camp unlocked. All profession kiosks had the text edited to reformat to make it easier to understand the profession and comprehension of it. The edited text to detect or direct the player to a mission kiosk is more effectively helpful once they've reached the starbase. That's a good thing because a lot of people were saying, well, where do I go? Where are these kiosks? Stuff like that. They've restructured some of the FTUE hallway logic to avoid repetitive dialogues. Told the players directly to jump into the electric room to die on purpose instead of making them seem like it was an accident. Smart move there. They edited the angle of the meteors in space so that they feel like they are not just falling straight down. They removed some of the servitor dialogue to avoid constant click to close of dialogue. That's a smart move. Other miscellaneous updates that they've made, which are bug fixes and things like that, are as follows. Portal objects in space have been replaced, so you only have to fly through them. So there is no longer a sort of landing pad area for a portal. It has this cube with a circle in it type effect framework around what looks like a wormhole. So these look like stable wormholes. So you know the effect of the wild wormholes. It has that wormhole effect, but has these cube frames with circles in them for you to fly through to get into that wormhole, letting you know that those are the stable wormholes. I think that's an interesting way of doing it. If they've added a wormhole opening and closing visual effects and audio. That's good. I can't wait to see wormholes opening and closing. This is mainly the wild wormhole. The Helix's sound visual effects now properly update the visual effects on its specials when the PQRV enhances the radius of these effects. So when you make it bigger, you see the changes now, which is good. If you release the left mouse button ability, then click and hold the left mouse button, the ability will trigger again after cooling down timer expires. Players can now properly burn flora, and that has been re-enabled. This is helpful. Flora on your own homestead, by the way. Other players have added privileges on the homestead can do this also. So it's just you and the people that you give permission to edit on your homestead that they'll be able to edit the flora. which is good. The kiosks on the star bases now have different colors, and these really stand out. There's one kiosk that's the color that we're used to. There's a red one, there's like a pink one, a black one, and a bunch of different nice colors. They really let you know that, hey, this is this kiosk, this is this kiosk, instead of just having to look at the circling text above it. I 100% love this, especially with my eye disability, of my eye jumping around. It makes it hard to read those circling names. I have to memorize by location. Now I get to memorize by color, which is so much more helpful. The paver tool no longer alters the landscape that you are paving, other than it just changes the material. So you're going to have to sort of create the dimension of the surface you want with the terraformer depositing tool and stuff like that, and then put the paver to work afterwards, which is, I think, adds more gameplay and more creativity to creating walkways. The stripped tools are now called starter tools. These are the tools that you begin with. Such as if, when you first get into the game, you're not going to be given an almighty weapon or harvester or terraformer or anything like that. You're given the bare minimum one, and the stats are all set to like 250 for the PQ RV stats. And this is a smart move. Flying creatures now properly fly above the ground when patrolling. The tree spreads rate was decreased to make it possible for players to deplete flora again. Also, if a species goes extinct, it will no longer naturally propagate through the spreading and reappear on the world, which means that someone has to go in there and put the plant back in if you make a plant extinct. This is excellent. This makes it for the decimation of species of plants. The multi-shot damage is capped again. It was broken a while back and they just didn't notice. That means that if you get to a point blank and on target and fire an enemy, the projectile from a single shot weapon click, you can only do so much damage to the target regardless of how many projectiles hit on them. You can now see homestead owners' names from a greater range above the homestead object. All farming and forestry skills now grant botany experience, so you can unlock nodes in these trees in the new setup. The helix has been fixed and now heals characters again. Issues with the Xeno Slicer and contains kind of seeds causes the Xylo to malfunctions and have been resolved. The Sagittarius no longer spreads logs. Food consumables should now be working correctly. So before, you wouldn't be able to put it up and bring up that dial of consuming foods. It wasn't working. It is now working. Chat has been overhauled and now back and functioning. It is not yet implemented, but the UI is now new and somewhat more useful. Pressing escape will minimize the chat panel. The new skill menu is now being closed by hitting K again. And if you are opening a full screen menu and the game changes you from a fixed reticle to a free reticle, while you are in that menu, you will return to a fixed reticle when you close that menu. I love that change because I hate having to go T and then to take it out of locked reticle to the mouse reticule and then hit T again to bring it back every time. This just automatically does it for me, saving me some time and a button press. Lights have been optimized greatly. Homestead light limits have not yet been increased, but will likely go up in the next update after we address or assess duration playtests on how to optimize their and performance. Some volumetric fog has been added to the game, but we are using it lightly until further optimization occurs. Another thing I want to mention about some of these things that have happened is I want to go back to the new weapons. So the new weapons that we had, which was the Omniforce, the corrosion drones, and the freeze rays. This wasn't mentioned in the past patch notes. I noticed this in gameplay. You cannot get them from a kiosk. They have to be crafted. These 3 new weapons have to be crafted. So you need to find someone to craft them, or you need to craft them yourself. In all honesty, I think this is a smart move, as it helps create more of that drain effect of money. It causes us to communicate with one another and say, hey, I'm looking for this weapon. Is there anyone out there that can craft one or has one that they'll sell to me? And causes that interaction of trade. I think this was very nicely done and saved them some time too, because that causes the community to get to know one another, and it causes the market to move and shift along with doing trade. So overall, these are all of the patches for this. I really like this. I can't wait to see some of these skills come in, as you've been seeing them on the screen through me reading through all this to you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and YouTube will think you'll like this video next. Have a great day.